Greg, Meredith, the president of our chain, our keynote speaker. You inspire me. You make me want to open the shirt more. You make me want to grow my hair out.
Awesome, well.
And learn math.
Well, everybody should want to learn math, that's
yes,
for sure.
Yeah. That's my superpower, talking and math, but I'm not as good as you are.
That's awesome.
I have
That's
two things I'm good at, I say, talking and math. That's
well,
it.
I hear you. Well, you got ultimately, math is a communication event, right?
Yes.
It's not like if it's just in your head, you're not actually doing math. It's a lot like music in the sense that if you're playing in your basement and nobody hears it, it's not actually music. It's only when people hear it that it becomes music.
It's awesome.
Right? Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, tell me a bit about yourself. I'm going to interview you later tonight as the keynote interview. But
Okay.
tell them a bit about you. You live in Seattle?
Yeah, I live
and
in
I think
Seattle.
people would love to just hear a little bit about you.
Okay. What to say? I have 4 beautiful kids.
Yes.
2 daughters, 2 sons, and I have a beautiful wife, and to whom I am devoted. And it's funny because in many ways a lot of what I'm doing is for them, right? A lot of what our chain is about is trying to create a world that I can pass on to my kids, you know, and trying to make it a better place too.
That's good. That's good. I can't wait to do the full interview.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me a moment of your time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for partnering with me in this event and for sponsoring this event. I'm so excited to be involved with our chain.
Oh, thank you for having us. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Ian, for putting this together, and thank you to each and every one of you who came out and gave up your Tuesday night for a blockchain event. That's pretty amazing. It's very humbling, and I really appreciate the time and energy. And the first thing I want to do is to invite everyone to just take a moment and connect with that feeling of life in your left hand, whatever that means for you. Just take one brief moment and just connect with the feeling of life in your left hand. And I want to recognize that as a part of doing that there are lots of technologies that we have yet to tap into. Technologies that have to do with how we organize our attention. Right? A lot of what we're going to need to do in the next several years is being able to coordinate amongst each other at a kind of pace and agility that we don't normally work with. And in order to be able to do that, we're going to have to tap into a lot of different technologies. And part of that is just being able to occupy this instrument as best we possibly can, because I've noticed, and I think maybe many people have noticed, that when we occupy this instrument as best we can, something mysterious happens, and we begin to be able to occupy this instrument in a better way. And that's sort of the way I think about blockchain. Really what I think about blockchain is it's a coordination technology. Right, so a lot of people have heard me talk about this, but I think of 3 major coordination technologies. 2 of them are pretty old, in the sense that they've been with us for a long time, right? And one of those is finance, right? So finance is a means. Like if you think about it, capital is really just a means of organizing each other. Really, the purpose of money, the purpose of finance, is to help us take care of each other and the planet. Right? That's its function. That's its goal. And it gets hard to use it in that way if we don't get to explore as many models as possible that we might explore with finance, right? So that means that when capital is stuck in the hands of a few, that reduces the number of models that we can use to coordinate each other. And that's really important, and I'll motivate that in just a second. But the next one is governance. finance and governance are completely inextricably linked. That's why blockchain is so crazy weird, right? Because you have to solve financial modeling problems and governance problems and software architecture all at once. It's a really awesome space to work in. It's coding at a completely different level. And so I really love it for that. But so governance is a really interesting problem, right? Especially when we recognize that it's inextricably linked with finance. So when we're talking about a blockchain company, one of the things it has to do is to get governance on good footing. And that's one of the reasons why our chain chose the cooperative model as a model, because we wanted to have the best beginning we could possibly have. Now, it's probably going to evolve and become much more sophisticated and nuanced, but one member, one vote is a really good beginning. How many people are still in contact with their left hand? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Yeah, it's an interesting attentional thing, like to begin to realize how often our attention kind of goes like this. But if we can stay in contact with this while we're in contact with this, something else becomes possible. And that something else is the kind of technology we're going to need. And why do we need that? Well, the real issue here, as I see it, is that we're facing the consequences of how we have lived on planet Earth for the last 150 years. So I don't know if anyone read it recently, but the news is broke that the Antarctic ice cap is melting at 3 times the rate than people had originally thought. So, about a year ago, a well-respected public figure scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, was pointing out the kind of thing that we're talking about on CNN, right? The issue is that in the next several years, we're going to have to move all our coastal cities inland by about 20 miles, or we have a real problem. Now, let's link that to another news event, right? So let's just think about the Syrian refugee crisis. It's just one region, and what it's done in terms of the U.S. being able to handle refugees, Europe being able to handle refugees. It's overwhelming those systems. Now think about it in terms of all of the coastal cities on this planet. It's going to be a madhouse. Stop and think about that for a minute. It's going to be utter chaos unless we figure out how to coordinate with each other. We're going to have to coordinate with each other in a way that we have never coordinated with each other before. So it's kind of cool, right? Because at the very moment that we need a new kind of coordinating technology, something shows up on the horizon, right? So the blockchain technology shows up at the moment when we have to make a level up. Because if we don't, we're looking at a very, very serious situation. I'm not joking, and most of the scientists on the planet aren't joking either, right? This is a make or break moment for us, and we need a new kind of coordinating technology. And the blockchain helps us reboot the financial technology sector, right? It brings us into a new way of being able to craft financial solutions. And that allows us to begin to expand, reimagine our understanding of finance as a way of taking care of each other and the planet. I remember, to touch in on another one of Ian's questions. I remember I was in London at the first Ethereum DevCon. I was sitting in the tube, hanging out with Vlad Zamfir, who's one of the Ethereum Foundation researchers and one of the principal drivers of the Casper protocol. And and another fellow, and they were just riffing on state channel algorithms, and I was just astounded. I was so delighted. Why? Because here were a couple of 20-somethings who were thinking about finance, and finance is a tool to craft coordination strategies in a way that I had never seen people do. And those are the people that I'm most inspired by. The 20-somethings and even the teens who are recognizing that if we don't step up and solve the problem, nobody's going to. I remember also thinking what I was like at 20 and how full of ennui I was. I was full of, this is too hard to solve. And I was so inspired by these 20-somethings, by Vitalik and Vlad and by characters like my son, who recently designed a chip to help accelerate blockchain calculations at the ripe old age of 14. That's the group that I'm most inspired by, and that's the group that I'm working for. Right? That's the group that I most want to serve, because we're handing the situation over to them. I just want to let that sink in for a minute, right? What we're doing is we're handing the situation over to them. And so it's really, really important for us to be able to support them, and support them in this moment of crisis, in this moment of transition, in this moment of transformation, where these new technologies are coming into being right at the moment that we need to level up. So the other technology that I like to think about as one of the coordination technologies is one that's only recently emerged, and that's the social media technologies, right? And it's interesting, again, because I fundamentally believe there has to be a reboot of those technologies. If you look at how they've been used in this country, well, Facebook was weaponized by a foreign power, right? And there was a giant pendulum swing. I don't know if you've noticed it. There's been a giant pendulum swing at Facebook in terms of a kind of near draconian response to that, right? And that's not what we can, that's not the kind of way we need to be able to utilize these ultimately very, very powerful media, right? A decentralized solution is going to be a much, much more wholesome, healthy, and responsive solution. And again, it's a part of beginning to tap into a collective intelligence. Right, I was really inspired by your discussion, right? Because you spoke about collaboration. I mean, and what it takes to get into this collaborative mood, right? It's in this collaborative space, right? It's something that all of us, like from the moment we pick up the U.S. Constitution, we have a sense of it, right? Every democracy puts a stake in the ground and says the wisdom of the collective is greater than the wisdom of any individual. So this is not some woo-woo idea, right? This is something that is baked in to the fabric of modern society in much of the world. So we do know that the collective intelligence is a real thing. We're going to have to be able to tap into it. We need groups that can turn on a dime, like our best athletes. We need groups that can think with the expansiveness greater than Einstein, right? Or greater than Schrodinger, right? We need groups that have the compassion of the Buddha, right? Because that's the kind of situation we're up against right now. And that's the kind of situation that we're handing to our children. So that's why I've spent the last 30 years kind of piecing together the bits and pieces that have gone into our chain. So building it from bedrock of a revision of fundamental foundational mathematics, step by step, to a revision of software architecture, to a revision of governance architecture, right? So as Ian mentioned, our chain has baked into it some fundamental principles. One is radical inclusion. All are welcome. In some sense, we're building an ark, right? And we need to make sure that anybody who wants on the ark can get in. The other thing the other principle that is baked into our chain is radical transparency. That's why we conduct our meetings on YouTube, right? We open our books up and we show our membership on YouTube what's in the books. If there are issues that the dev team is wrestling with, that's discussed on YouTube every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, and you're all welcome. You're all included, right? So if I was going to talk about a call to action, one of the things I would say was, come join the co-op, come participate, but more importantly, turn to someone next to you. First ask, hey, do you still have a left hand? Connect, right? Create that space that we need in order to be able to face what's coming. With that, I'm going to turn it over, and thanks again to everyone.